Hey everyone, happy to hop on here and do a Q&A with you guys. And I also have a topic that I'm going to go ahead and talk about and see if it prompts any questions as you guys are tuning into viewing. So, as always, got to give my medical disclaimer. I will say this is really the only time that I get to put on real clothes because I'm in scrubs now pretty much 24/7 with that and my PPE. So, yay, I get to wear some regular clothes right now for the interview. But as always, guys, my disclaimer, this is not medical advice. Make sure that you discuss anything that you hear here with your own provider, so we can make sure it's applicable for you. Hey, everybody. Why don't you guys, everyone who's tuning in, type in the comments and let me know where you are tuning in from tonight. I always love to see where everyone's located. And then let me go ahead and put in here in the pinned comments what I'm going to talk about. And that before I answer your guys' questions, we're going to discuss COVID-19 and fasting. So I'm going to pin that comment so you guys know what we're talking about. And we have, so Raicha is from Dallas. She actually has her own obesity medicine practice there. So shout out to her. Sika 1287 is, and Posh Blends is from LA. We have Kawing Jen tuning in from Vancouver, Canada. Ciablos is from Corpus Christi, Texas. We have another from Los Angeles, another Cali. All right, guys, we're from all over. Oops, hold on. I did not mean to do that. Come back. All right. So, well, let's get into it. And, oh, wow, from Indonesia. Awesome. Yay, guys. Another Canadian here I see. Yay. Oh, that makes my heart so happy. All right. Well, let's get into it. And we're going to talk about COVID-19 and intermittent fasting. So this is a question I get commonly, so I wanted to just go ahead and address it, and then I can take your guys' questions. As we know, pretty much literally COVID-19 is sweeping the globe. At this point, we've probably all been impacted by COVID-19 in some form or fashion, whether that's due to decreased hours in employment, loss of employment, schools closing, whether or not you've had a family member or a friend sick with it, whether you've been sick with it, or possibly even known someone at this point in time who has passed away from it. So this is something that's not going anywhere, and I think we need to discuss intermittent fasting and just kind of the role that fasting plays in the midst of a pandemic and responsible fasting. So, it's very layered. Let's start off with just intermittent fasting in general. So many health benefits. If you followed me for any period of time, periodically, at least once a week, I'm going to have a post. It depends, I guess, what the theme is, but usually once a week, I have a post that deals with the benefits of intermittent fasting. So one of the benefits of intermittent fasting is decreased inflammation and thereby also increasing and enhancing our immune response. So that is not to say that intermittent fasting cures COVID, right? I'm not going to get on TV and make any blanket statements about a cure for COVID. But what I will say is that if you are prepping yourself, eating nutritious foods, and partaking in intermittent fasting regularly, just your baseline health response, your baseline inflammation and immunity, giving your body the ability to fight disease is going to be that much better through combining an intermittent fasting lifestyle with one low in processed foods and honestly junk, right? Because that stuff can increase inflammation, increase cytokines, and you don't want your body to have to choose between fighting itself due to inflammation or not having adequate immune responses due to chronic inflammation, while it's also trying to fight coronavirus. So there's that. Now, notice I said intermittent fasting. So I also don't believe that this is the time that people should partake in prolonged fasting. So how I'm going to define prolonged fasting is anything that's above 36 hours, especially anything above 48 hours. Well, why is that? So there are many reasons to partake in extended fasting. But extended fasting is a stressor on the body. So we will see people all the time who try to do extended fasting too often, and then they see that they develop maybe menstrual irregularities or things like that. It's because you're stressing the body too much too frequently. So a common misconception is, well, if a little bit of stress for the body is good, then a lot is even better. And it's like, no, it's to a point. So for me, I will do seasonal extended fast. And what I mean by seasonal extended fast are usually 4 or 5 times a year. Typically, I interchange it or try to coincide it with the changing of the seasons. That's what I do for myself personally. And I will do a fast for like pure autophagy, water only salt. And I do that trying to really get a handle on recycling damaged proteins for brain health, for gut health, for metabolic health. And, it's great. However, right now, I just don't think that's the time to do that for your body when you want to make sure that you're in tip-top shape so that if you do contract coronavirus, you can be in the best position to fend it off. So that's why I would preferentially limit fasting to 36 hours. I know some people have said, you can go maybe even longer than that, but that's what I'm doing personally for myself, and for my family. So that's what I would recommend on that. So that's my little spiel. And now I see like lots of questions coming in. So let me go to the Q&A and we'll open it up here and I'll talk to you guys for about another 15 minutes or so. And then got to get ready for that work day tomorrow. So the first question is that I see is, what's the best way to begin a fast? So I don't know if you'd mean begin intermittent fasting in general or just a normal fast. So you've been fasting, you just want to begin. For me, it just depends on what length I'm going at. If I'm going to try to do something like a 36-hour or even a 24-hour, the couple days leading into the fast, I prefer to keep it low carb. Don't necessarily have to be keto, but I like to decrease processed sugars because I find when you try to start a fast after having a lot of sugary processed foods, it makes the fast that much harder. And so I'd like to just kind of position myself for the best method of success. So that's what works for me. Play around with it, but I definitely find that eating, it doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but I definitely try to clean it up going into the fast. So that's my response there. Let's see what else we have here. So Dindy Wibowo asked, can I ask something? Sure. No, I'm just kidding. Let me keep reading. Whether fasting will affect our immune system. Is it good or bad impact? So I kind of touched on that. I'll go in a little more detail. So in general, intermittent fasting does have beneficial effects on the immune system. Like for instance, I was reviewing some literature and there was a study in asthmatics that looked at interleukin-6, IL-1. These are cytokines, markers of inflammation. And it had beneficial effects in decreasing these levels with intermittent fasting, fasting less than 36 hours. So I definitely think your regular intermittent fasting, right? Just, you're 16 hours a day, you're 12 hours a day, you're 18 hours a day. Like you don't have to do anything super long. And that's what I want to get across to people, especially if you are willing to clean up your nutrition. And that doesn't mean, not ever eating anything sweet again. I mean, low key, my 5-year-old gave me a gummy bear tonight. Ooh. So I ate it. So that doesn't mean you can't ever do anything like that, right? But we're talking about what you do most often. And so that's what's going to help keep your immune system overall functioning very well. And hopefully you'll notice yourself not getting sick much at all. Knock on wood. The Rona is a little different, so can't say what will or will not happen with that. But in general, I typically am a very healthy person. And I definitely think with intermittent fasting, I've noticed that trend in terms of my immune system. I'm like always least likely to ever call off from work or, have something that affects me in that manner. And I have kids that are, little germ balls, right? Kids always carry something. So I do personally think that I've noticed in my life that intermittent fasting has helped my just ability to fight off your common colds and things like that. We'll have to see what it does with the Rona though. All right. So next question from Lova Always One. Can I add raw honey to my tea when fasting? You can, but then you're not fasting. So no, that will break your fast. So if you like raw honey, what I would suggest doing is that you can have your tea with honey in it, but just put that in your eating window. Don't count that as in your fasting window. Shaza Akbar says, what should you do if you hit a weight loss plateau? So that question in general, I'll give you a few quick tips, but it really needs kind of like, a deeper look just to see what you're doing. One, I always kind of tell people to look back at your fasting fluids because a lot of people think they're fasting when they're not. And so just by honing down and truly getting back to basics, when in doubt, just do water. And that can help. Sometimes people are fasting and not taking in adequate calories. And so you never really hear me talk about counting calories, but I will have you count calories to make sure you're getting enough, because sometimes people combine caloric restriction and intermittent fasting, and maybe a little caloric restriction is fine, but like hardcore caloric restriction plus intermittent fasting will definitely get you into a plateau. Sometimes you need to vary your fasting length. So it can be a myriad of things. Kaiwa Jen says, on fast longer than 3 days, I develop rashes around my chest. Is that a concern being keto for 2 years? That's interesting. I have not yet to encounter that. So I would definitely wonder if you are releasing some sort of inflammation or reaction or something like that and your body's trying to reset itself. But you definitely probably should look into that with your physician. Miss Bailey, that girl, says, does fasting help you lower your blood sugar if you're borderline diabetes, or would it make it spike up? So that's interesting. It just depends on what your glycogen stores are. So over time, intermittent fasting consistently will help eventually lower insulin levels and in turn help correct metabolic health in terms of improving blood sugars. I have definitely seen, though, people who have so much glycogen storage in their liver and honestly probably have fatty liver disease that when they first start intermittent fasting, they actually notice that their fasting glucose levels shoot up. But that's because the liver is like finally being able to release all of this stored glycogen. It's just pouring it out and pouring it out. But eventually that corrects itself. Let's see, scrolling here. Lily Adventure Time, sorry. Can you take supplements while fasting? I take vitamin D. and K with coconut oil. So I'd probably lay off the coconut oil, but your vitamin D, vitamin K probably really won't, hurt your fast at all. Let's see. Scrolling through, I think I hit the rest of the questions. You guys had some really good questions tonight. So for those who are just joining in, just in case you want to watch the full replay in the stories, we were just talking about COVID-19 and intermittent fasting and the role that intermittent fasting can play in just keeping you baseline healthy, getting your immune system pumped up and revved so that you can be in the best position, hopefully, to combat this illness. Lily Adventures Heim says, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're so wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I'm glad this is helpful. But yeah, that's basically what the first part of the discussion was tonight. And then if you guys want to go back through, then you can listen to that and the questions I asked. And I definitely agree. Dr. Jason Fung, I read his book first, and that's kind of what opened my eyes to the world of intermittent fasting. And, I've experimented and tested on myself, and then did more research. And then now I'm actually integrating it into clinic, into private practice, along with doing coaching. And hopefully, who knows, maybe I'll get my own telemedicine practice up and running soon. Shazar Akbar says, Ramadan is coming up. Fasting in the daylight hours, any recommendation? So it just depends, because Ramadan fasting, to my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not Muslim, but my understanding is that typically with Ramadan fasting from sunup to sundown, not only are you abstaining from food, but you're also abstaining from drink. So that definitely is more challenging. I would just recommend that you pre-hydrate as much as you can. Also add salt in there before the sun rises so that your body is just naturally hydrated going into the day. It's going to be normal, right? You're going to probably be parched by the time you get to the end of the day, but the more you can pre-hydrate and make sure those electrolytes are up, it will help you just retain a state of hydration more. So that's probably going to be, a helpful tip there. Question, do you recommend 16-18? I think starting off, yes, 16-18 is great. If you find struggling with that, even 12 hours is great as well. Low carb podcast features Fung a lot. Love them too. That is a great podcast. There's so many great podcasts. I really like the Fast Keto podcast. I like that podcast before Vanessa was gracious enough to have me as a guest, because she just interviews so many people who are biohackers, and I love it. I just love learning about different ways. So that's also a podcast I personally recommend. And yes, so it looks like people have confirmed that my understanding of the Ramadan fast was correct. It's typically not eating or drinking from sunrise to sunset. So that is definitely more difficult, I find. I would think. But I think pre-hydration, again, would be a helpful tip. So, all right, guys. Well, you have a good night, and make sure to, the podcast I was talking about, let me type it now. It's Fast Keto Podcast. And she's on Instagram at ketogenic girl, so you can check her out. All right, guys. Well, have a good night, and I will definitely try the best of my ability to stay safe. You guys also stay safe. I know it's a pain, but social distancing really does save lives. We're seeing the curve start to flatten. But again, curve flattening doesn't mean that we quit social distancing. We got to see the curve go down and get a control on this thing. So just anticipate. I know everyone's thinking, April 30th, everything's going to open back up. It's not. Just get your realistic cap on. We're doing this at least through the end of May. And then we just got to see what happens after that. So stay safe, everyone. Take care and have a good night. I am Sharper says, oh no, I missed it. Please save to your stories. Most definitely. This will be saved to my stories. And then you can also check out the replay, which will be saved on thefastingdoctor.com. It's under the tab Fasting and Beyond or Instagram Live specials. And so you can go back and see all of my past Q&As, topic or guest discussions that I've had. So this will go to my stories, but also make sure to check out my website. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye.